Hello, everyone, and welcome to AI Agents Hour. I'm Shane. This is brought to you by Mastra. Today, we have a few things we're going to be talking about. We're going to be going through AI news just like we do every day, but there's quite a bit that we're going to be talking through. So I'm pretty excited about that. And then we are going to spend some time talking about previewing some upcoming Mastra launches. You're going to see a sneak peek if you're watching this live on some things that we'll be announcing most likely next week. So you'll kind of get almost a week in advance, or at least a weekend in advance of what some of the things that we're working on. And maybe we'll even pull some of it down and run it locally and try some things out. Some of it is already available, just not yet announced. So, maybe you can find it. And then we will have Joyce from Crossmint and GoatSDK coming on just to chat, see how things are going, learn a little bit about what some of the stuff that she's working on is. And with that, we already have some comments in the chat. Adebayo, how's it going? Good to see you here. And as you can tell, this is live. So if you're watching this on X, you're watching this on LinkedIn, you're watching this on YouTube, just drop a comment. There's going to be some participation options later to hopefully win. We'll give away a couple things later when we're talking about the upcoming Mastra launches. And hello to you as well. Hello, Fabric. And as you can see, Fabric's on X, Adebayo's on YouTube. So we're all over the place. But let's go ahead and let's actually get into the news. So give me 1 second and we will pull this up. And I'm actually going to kind of pull a wild card because candidly, I, like many of you, keep track of a bunch of different places where I go to keep up with all this information, right? It feels like you're sometimes drinking from a fire hose, all the stuff that's the launches in AI, the new models, the new benchmarks, all these things are kind of coming from all over the place. I think typically I spend the most time getting most of my information from X, but we have other sources as well. I would say my favorite source of getting information is just from, we have a channel in our Mastra Slack called Kindergarten, because we all feel like we're in kindergarten learning new things every day. But Tyler is very active in kindergarten. And so Tyler is probably my, if it is, it's like X is my main source of news. And then Tyler's like right there. So I did want to invite him on, and he offered to spend a little time talking about some of the AI news, because a lot of this was just filtered through him first. So he'll have better impressions than I will. So let's bring Tyler on. Tyler, what's up?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going well. Yeah, I was just, telling everyone watching live that most of my news comes through you, either X
Oh, it
or
does. I didn't know that. That's
yeah,
cool.
basically the kindergarten channel in Slack is where I monitor for all the the cool things that people are talking about that doesn't somehow make it to my X feed.
Nice. I'll have to make sure I keep posting there then.
Yes, please do, because you're feeding content into this live stream almost, at least a few times a week for sure. But we do have a lot of news items to cover today. And so I'll probably just share my screen and we can kind of talk through it. And Tyler, I'll be interested in your perspective on some of this stuff because you've actually even played around with some of this stuff. So the first one is something we've talked about on the stream. I believe it was yesterday, maybe it was 2 days ago, but DeepSeek R1 V2 came out, but they did release some benchmarks.
Yeah, the benchmarks look really good, and I've been running it locally. So I don't know, Daniel was on, right?
Yeah,
He showed like the tool compatibility stuff.
Yeah, we talked about tool compatibility. We'll maybe we can even preview that, as well if you want.
So I ran the tool compatibility benchmark against DeepSeek R1 hosted by DeepSeek. It got 100%, which none of the other models did at all. Not even Claude.
Didn't
Like
Claude get
like
100%?
It got 99%. It was like very close.
Okay. So
actually, you know what? I was running in the benchmark locally. I didn't run all the models. I was running 3.7. So I might be wrong. Maybe Opus or Claude 4 got 100% possibly. But
yeah. Okay.
the crazy thing though I downloaded the 8B Qwen fine tune of R1. You can run it on your own MacBook. It's tiny, and it got 100% as well. So
Okay, so I have questions about this because we are talking AI news, but I think this is a helpful divergent because a lot of people have only used ChatGPT through the API, or maybe
mhm.
Claude, Sonnet through the API, and they hear about these like DeepSeek models and other models that are available. But how does one go about running Qwen 8, the 8 gig or whatever, 8 billion whatever model on their local device? What are the steps for doing that?
So there's a few ways you could use like Olama or some other things. My favorite is LM Studio though. So it's got like a nice interface. You can see all the models. There's a lot of like, sliders to tweak different settings like context length or like, some different caches and stuff like that. Um, so that's what I always recommend to people is LM Studio. You can
Do you,
search
yeah,
up models and yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna find that and pull that up. Let's talk about that for a minute. How does it work? Does
Yeah,
it
so
run?
you
It
go to,
runs locally.
yep, it runs on your machine. Depending on what kind of machine you have, you'll install like a different runtime. So there's like a Apple Metal runtime, or I think there's like another one, can't remember what it's called. Or I think if you're on like a desktop PC with like an AMD processor, you'll get another runtime. But you just pick the right one for your machine. And then when you search for models, you will see all the models you can actually install, and it'll tell you if it works with your machine. So it's actually that simple. You just download it, and then you can run the model. You get like a open AI compatible HTTP endpoint, and you can
So
point like a Mastra agent at it as well.
yeah,
So
so how do you normally test these models when you're running them locally? Are you just like using some kind of CLI posting to it, or what are you doing to when you're testing these things locally?
I have a coding agent that I've been working on. I mentioned this to you before. I'm gonna probably open source it in the next couple of weeks, so it's not like public yet, but um, it's a very good coding agent. Like I've been really enjoying using it, but that's what I test models with, just to get like the vibe of how well the model works. Because I can point that at like LM Studio or OpenAI or Claude or whatever. But
Have you
yeah,
tested the
go ahead.
new have you tested the new Qwen 8 AB model with your coding agent?
I did, yeah. So I was running it on my MacBook, so it was a little bit slow. It thinks a lot. It'll think for like 30 seconds and then output like a sentence and call a tool. Um, I have a gaming PC with a 4090 graphics card, so later today I'm gonna run it on that, and hopefully it'll run a lot faster because from what I saw, the quality was really, really good. Like editing code and calling tools and all of that. So I might actually use the 8B local one to do some real work, which is we'll
Yeah.
see. But
Yeah, I know. I just remember we were talking before you joined Mastra, even before we started Mastra, you and I had talked about some of the models you were running locally, and so it's funny that now it always felt like local models, and they probably still are, maybe to some extent, maybe not. We'll find out. But local models are always just a little bit behind, right? The kind of the open source ones you can run
mhm,
locally because
yep.
they're kind of tapping into, I think, a lot of the learnings from some of the closed source ones that are putting a lot of money into this. But maybe that's not going to be true forever,
I think it already might not be with this new R1 release. And I think that's what's kind of blowing my mind right now is like we have this tool compatibility benchmark that we're running. And even the local R1 like Qwen fine tune gets 100% for every kind of input schema, where like all of the OpenAI models will fail on like some percent of those tool calls. Claude will fail on a small percent as well. Like that's wild that it can outperform those as such a tiny model.
Is it just more like, so the research that we did was all around like tool compatibility with like how function, like what parameter types tool calls accepted.
Mhm.
Is that right?
Yep, exactly.
So you're
So
saying
we
that it
give it,
supports a wider range of potential parameter types for function calling?
yeah, exactly. Actually, it supported all of them. I think though it only failed on some schema input types that no one uses, like saying that a field input type can only be undefined or typed never, which is actually not that useful. So that's probably why they didn't actually train on those things, but literally every other schema input type passed, no problem, which is just wild.
Very wild.
So,
all right, so let's look
yeah.
through some of these. So I'm not familiar with all of these benchmarks, but there's a few of them here that I'm familiar with. And you can see, maybe I'll make it a little bigger. So you can see the new DeepSeek model and, the is it, I don't know, AIME 2024 benchmark. It seems to outperform O3 and Gemini Pro. It does have like the 235B Qwen 3 and then the original DeepSeek R1. So you can see just even the gap of where it was. And this is only, the funny thing is this is only like a minor version upgrade, right?
Yeah.
It's not even
that's
like
right.
R2.
We're still waiting for R2, which who knows what that's going to be like if this is a minor improvement.
But you can see that gets the new DeepSeek gets much closer to a lot of the other providers. In some cases, maybe even beating it, right? But at minimum, it closes the gap significantly.
Yeah.
And so it says
That's really cool.
shows significant improvements on handling complex reasoning tasks from 70% to 87.5 on the AIME 2025 test. You can see the different benchmarks and what, you had R1 and then now the new version, R1 V2 or 528, because I suppose that's the date it was released, right? And you can see that in pretty much all instances, it has pretty significantly improved.
Yeah. And I guess they achieved that by some reinforcement learning and then just getting it to output more reasoning tokens, it looks like. I think it said it went from like 12K to 30K or something like that on average.
Oh, really? So it's like just does deeper reasoning, and that's how it got a lot of the improvements then.
I think it's a combination of that and the additional training that they did. Because now it also supports tool calling, which the original R1 didn't. So structured outputs and function calling are supported.
Yeah, and there's instructions here on how to run.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead, Tyler.
Well, I was going to say, I think the only way that they could add the tool calling is just by the additional training that they did. So I think it's a mix, basically. More reasoning, more training equals better model.
Talks about the temperature. So there's a lot of information here, obviously, has a license information. So it's, again, pretty cool that these models are released to be able to be downloaded and run locally. And you even have like the Qwen 8B model, which is, significantly smaller, so you can run on consumer hardware and still give you pretty good results, right? Maybe it doesn't
is
perform.
about 4 gigabytes of memory to load it up.
That's it?
That's it. Yeah, so you can actually run the 8-bit quant, and I think that's actually weird. It's actually kind of even. It's 8 gigabytes, just about that, to like 10 gigabytes, depending, I guess, on what you're doing. But
yeah,
that's impressive.
That
like
is
the quality for the size.
That is pretty wild. All right, so we talked a little bit about DeepSeek and talked a little bit about how you can use LM Studio if you want to try to run some of these models locally. I have not actually run any of these models locally, so I think that's something that's on my list of things to play around with at some point. Might need to upgrade my my system here, but it'd probably run it. It just might be a little slow. I'm about due.
Are you on you have like an M series MacBook or anything like that? Because
I think
it'll
I have
run
an
fine on that.
Yeah, I have an M2. So.
Oh, it'll run fine.
So it's like I think an early M2, if I remember correctly, when M2s are first coming out. All right. So the next thing, another thing that will look familiar because you shared it. Today we're launching Perplexity Labs. So Labs is for your more complex tasks. Build anything from analytical reports and presentations to dynamic dashboards, now available for all pro users. Maybe we should just watch this video. I think I need to, let me know if you can hear this, Tyler.
Yep.
looks like all kinds of really cool things that you can do with this.
Yeah. Do you use Perplexity?
So I do use it a little bit, but not frequently. So I mean, I have the app on my mobile device. I sometimes will use that instead of ChatGPT, but I would say it's not something that I use every day. What about you?
Yeah,
I
that
think
makes sense.
you use it, right?
I use it quite a bit. Yeah, I really like it. I know some people don't like it, but I find for regular searches it works quite well. Like I prefer it to like doing a Google search or something like that. I do add like a custom little system prompt, just telling it to add actual links, just output them at the end of the response. So I find it annoying having to click like sources and then go find links and stuff like that. So that might be part of why I like it more, is like it actually lists out the links as text at the end.
It's a
But
nice little tip or hack. You can just
yeah,
edit this.
there you
You can
go.
just edit the system prompt
Uh
or add to it.
yeah, I think it's like you can add some custom instructions somewhere. I can't remember where it is, but it's in the settings somewhere. I think you might have to have like the pro subscription for it too. But yeah, I
Nice.
like it for regular searches. And then anytime we're doing research at Mastra, I will use the deep research mode and I won't actually use any of the text that it outputs. I'll just use it to find a huge list of relevant sources to whatever info. So like the deep research works really well for finding a big list of relevant links to some input prompt that you give it. The
I
actual
see.
text I found is like pretty unreliable. Maybe like half of it is right, half is wrong. I'm hoping with this, we have a much like higher quality in the actual report that it generates. So yeah.
Yeah. Very, very cool. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I use O3 a lot for those deep research things. Like a lot of times if I'm not getting my AI news from X or I'm not getting it from, you in our Slack channel, I'll use like O3 for that same kind of task. And it does pretty good, but I do sometimes think it
O3 is good,
overhits.
yeah.
But I would be curious. Maybe I should do an A/B test with this and just see which one I like
Yeah,
better.
it's
I've
worth
been,
it.
yeah, I've been trying to do a little bit more, on a lot of these things, even like with like Codex and comparing it to Joules and all this. Like I want to do the same task in multiple things and just see which one feels more
Mm,
fits my workflow and also seems to give better results for the way that I prompt, right? Because it might be different for everyone else because I probably have a certain style the way that I do it, the way that I would
yeah,
prompt it. So maybe there's certain ones that will work better for me.
that'd be a cool experiment. I
All
did
right.
run one labs search and I just asked it to make some graphs about like different events that happened at Mastra and
Yeah.
user
I have
growth and stuff like that.
Yeah, I came
Oh, you have
prepared,
that?
dude. I came prepared,
Oh, nice.
It's,
I
what do
thought
you,
this was pretty
this isn't,
good. Did you
I
read through
normal
it?
I've read through some of it. I was gonna read through it on the stream. I'm not saying we're the most professional, but sometimes I step up my game and I come prepared. So today is one of
Nice.
those days, apparently. Before we jump into
Nice.
this, we do have a question from the chat, and you are the person to maybe answer this or say we can't do it.
Oh,
But Jem says, "Hi, can I use Zep for memory with Mastra?"
I think you can. I think right now you have to kind of manually wire it up yourself, but I think you definitely can. Something we've been thinking about is making it easier to make memory adapters. Right now, the way that memory works in Mastra is pretty opinionated on purpose. But we have some things in the pipeline to maybe open that up a little bit. We'll see.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's kind of like our general. I would say in some ways we've kind of done this before with workflows, right? Where it's like workflows, we built it one way, and then we got a bunch of feedback from everybody, and then we eventually made workflows now where you can we're at least working on so it can be supported and run on ingest and temporal and Cloudflare
Mhm.
workers, and so maybe memory, time will tell, but maybe memory will follow a similar path where we start with our opinionated version, learn a lot, and then maybe figure out ways to allow you to kind of bring your own memory to Master agents.
Yep. I will say, I think you could use it right now if you use their JavaScript SDK and manually like fetch some info from it and put it into the agent's context. And then when you get a response, put that back into Zep. So that will probably work. I haven't actually tried it, but I
Yeah.
don't think there's any reason it wouldn't. So
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, we're just calling LLMs right under the hood. So if you can manage
yep.
the context, you should have the tools to manage the context. It should be possible. but maybe someday it'll be a little easier. All right, so let's read through this Perplexity search that you ran. So what was the prompt? This is the prompt, or
Yep, up at the top is the prompt there.
timeline of key events, usage growth, and user sentiment for Mastra AI, the TypeScript AI agent framework. So it pulled some stuff from here.
45 sources in the top right, I think,
Wow.
as well. So it did a lot of stuff, a lot of looking around. This is what I mentioned. This is what I typically find very valuable with these searches is you can come in, like actually go and start manually looking at anything that looks interesting. I found a lot of stuff that I normally I wouldn't have otherwise found. So
yeah, this person spelt this wrong. Mastra TypeScript framework.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool though. Even scrape my LinkedIn.
Yep. Yeah, it knows who you are. It mentioned you by name in the response. So.
Yeah, it sure did.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, it's very, it can do its research. Honestly, the funny thing here, so I'm looking at this for the first time. Like I scrolled through it before, I didn't come that prepared.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm reading through this for the first time. This is actually like a lot of our messaging too, though, is like addressing critical gaps in the developer experience that existing Python-centric frameworks have left unfilled. It definitely got that from our, obviously our content somewhere, but I know that's kind of the sentiment, Tyler, as you coined, Python trains, TypeScript ships, it's like,
oh yeah,
TypeScript should have just as good a frameworks as Python. There's no reason that you have to build AI in Python. I mean, obviously you can, but shouldn't be a requirement.
100%.
Wow, it even is this. I think this stuff probably, like maybe
a deep cut.
Yeah, maybe Sam has a blog post about that. Otherwise, it had to have come from like YouTube videos, because I don't know. Like,
yeah,
I mean,
it does
maybe
have the reference there at the end of the second sentence. There's there's 1629.
Yeah. Okay. So that's Sam's blog post, and then one of my blog posts. Okay, or one of my LinkedIn posts. All right. Yeah. We obviously talk about this, but not that often. So it's some deep cuts. This is a timeline.
This I was a little bit unsure about, like the red dot saying partnership. Maybe the colors are just kind of misleading because we have feature, partnership, recognition. Those are all very close in color there.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell, but this is mostly right. It's like we started this in October. We probably had our first launch at the beginning, somewhere in November, I would think, if I'm just trying to guess at timelines. So, but that seems mostly right.
Yeah.
And then obviously, this was YC. We got in and started obviously having more frequent releases after we had spent the first month and a half kind of learning and talking to people.
Does it have, I know some of these things, like when it generates a graph or like a infographic like that, it'll show a CSV. Like, I wonder.
It looks like I can download it.
Well, I think that's the image.
Oh, that's the image. Yeah.
Try scrolling down a little bit. I wonder if there's like a CSV, because we could see what kind of data.
Master timeline
there you
CSV.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you
it even opens it up.
Oh, that's nice. Cool. Oh, wow.
I'm impressed, Perplexity. This is cool.
This is better than I thought. I didn't see this when I was reading through.
So yeah, it tells you category, launch, release, funding, feature. It has a bunch of our change logs. Not all of our change logs, because it's more frequent than this, but it does have a lot of them in there.
This is wild for like a one sentence prompt, and then waiting. I think I waited 10 minutes for it to generate all this.
Has some of the features that we released. Not, of course, I think there's many that are missing, but it's definitely.
Oh, there's a load more. You see that?
Oh, was there?
I think when you scroll to the bottom, load more. 3 kilobytes total. So maybe it didn't miss anything.
Copilot, tool calling improvements. That was yesterday.
Yeah, it's got the data on it right there.
Dude, what are we even doing here? Like, this can do our jobs for us. Like, this would have taken me, like, a lot of this is like, just imagine you were doing some research on a company, right? Or just like wanted to see that, like, chat, let me know if you tried this out yet. I would recommend you try it. I could just see, like, I put myself in the shoes of, like, I'm searching for a job and I want to just do some background on the company. Like that would be pretty
Mhm.
cool. Or if I'm choosing a new technology to use and I'm not sure how active, like this is pretty useful information. I don't know that I'd read all of it, but if I was
Yeah.
going to choose Mastra for a project, I think a simple prompt, let it run, and then just do some validation of like, does this seem like, I don't think it's good to ask necessarily AI, do you think this is a good idea? Because I think that's like, it
Yeah,
tries
I
to,
agree with that.
most of the time it
Yeah.
tries to like make you happy. So if you think it's a good idea, they're going to
Mhm.
tell you it's a good idea. But for this, like, just give me the data and then let me spend a few minutes researching, and then I can make a decision.
Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
powerful. From what I saw, I did read through this whole thing. The only thing that seemed inaccurate was that it called out one other company's blog post as a partnership, but I think it was just another company mentioning us.
Was that
But
Copilot
besides
Kit?
that, it wasn't Copilot Kit. It was
Okay.
I can't remember what it was. It's somewhere in here, but yeah, I wish
Yeah.
I remember where it was. But
And it could have just been a company
yeah,
announcing support or something,
yeah, I think so.
showing active weekly engagements, the frameworks. Yeah. User sentiment. Oh, I like this. Are you reading this? This is doing the sales pitch for us.
Yeah.
Overwhelmingly positive reception across multiple dimensions of the developer experience.
Oh, check that out. I looked at 2 YouTube videos.
Yeah.
I didn't know it could do that.
OpenAI agent SDK versus Mastra AI. Okay. Emil Sayer. I don't know. You must have said some good words about us. I appreciate that. I've never seen that video or this one. So that's cool. There's no negative sentiment. So let's keep that
This is
up.
a bit of a weird graph too, though.
Yeah.
Like it's just there's like 3 steps, I guess.
Future outlook, very positive. Feature completeness, very positive. I would argue we're not feature complete enough, but we always like
Mhm.
we always like to be better. So we constantly pushing ourselves. Ease of use, that's an important one for us. Learning curve is generally positive. Production readiness, generally positive. Developer experience, like ultimately, I'd like all these to be very positive, but I'll take that. That's cool.
Yeah.
And if you are watching this, we are not giving a sales pitch for Mastra. We are simply looking at analysis that Perplexity decided to give us on Mastra, and it turns out it's pretty good. So it wasn't even cherry picked. But
Yeah. This was
if
the
you,
only search I did actually. I haven't had time to do any more. I
yeah,
was just it's
so
like this is something we know a lot about, so we can read through and see how much it's hallucinating.
yeah, and it's pretty
Um,
good. I mean, it's not
yeah.
perfect, but it's impressive. Like I would, if I asked someone random person to do research, they would not get it any more correct than this, right? Because
Yeah.
they're not going to know.
I
You're only going to know what
agree.
you find
Yeah.
online. So I don't know. That's pretty incredible. I would like to compare it to the same. Maybe I'll run this same thing through O3 and just
Oh, that's
compare
a
the
good idea.
results.
That's a
But
really good
this is
idea.
good. Like this is very good. So we're just looking at. If you just joined us, we're looking at the Perplexity Labs launch, which was it launched yesterday? I think.
Yes, that was yesterday.
So
Yeah.
it was launched yesterday. We ran it through this prompt: timeline of key events, usage growth, and user sentiment for Mastra.ai, the TypeScript AI agent framework. And it gave this like stellar review, but also just like a really well detailed report. Has links, has all the sources. It checked 45 different sources, gives us related questions. This is pretty sick. All right.
Scroll up a little tiny bit. Sorry, the one last thing. See the like list of links right there?
Yeah.
It's like right there. That's the system prompt that I give it. I tell it to
Okay.
always put a list of links at the end,
So if you
and
don't
it,
get
it makes
this,
it so much nicer.
if you don't get this list of links, you can update your settings and just tell it to give it links at the end of the response. That's a
Yeah.
little Tyler Barnes tip. All right. So yeah, we got some chat messages here. So let's maybe take a look at a couple of those. So I wrapped Mastra inside my Nest server. Will I still be able to access the agent OTel?
You should be able to,
Yes. If you
right?
is so yes, I think the important thing is you need to import the master class that you export and then call your agents and your workflows through that class. And then you should still
Mhm.
get all the telemetry. And then another kind of follow-up question. Also, is that generally the practice for production, or do you recommend the vanilla Hono setup? And this one, I would say it depends. We do have a lot of users and customers that go both ways, depending on how they're trying to build things. So oftentimes they have, they want to just use it bundled within a Next.js site, and they'll just deploy it all together. Sometimes they'll want to use like Nest or Express or whatever, and they'll kind of bundle it in there. And then we do have a lot of people though that they want to just run their entire backend through Mastra, and so they just deploy the Hono server that you get from Mastra. So I would say I don't know that there's a best practice. I think it does just vary depending on the complexity of your setup. The more complex use cases typically either do what you're doing, where you bundle it in with some other backend service, or run it so the backend separate. And then kind of a lot of people that are just getting started or maybe want to have simpler setups will just bundle it in with their front end, which is like a Next.js app or, whatever they're using within their front end. All right. Tyler, you got a few more minutes?
Yeah.
Okay.
I got time.
All right. So we got a couple more. It's good. It's taken longer than I guess I thought, but I knew it was going to be a jam-packed news day. All right.
Those are some pretty exciting pieces of news we just went through. So
yeah, I think these next ones are not quite as exciting, but still exciting. I don't want to undersell it. Okay. So this one I just caught my eye. I don't think it's really that popular yet, but I think we just kind of it piqued our interest, I would say.
Mm-hmm. It's a cool idea.
Yeah. Can you explain it, Tyler?
I haven't actually looked into it that much outside of just kind of like reading generally what it is, but I guess the idea is this is a framework that allows you to add a payment layer onto your custom MCP server. So you could distribute your MCP server, and users of it could pay for access to some service through it or something like that. That's what I gathered. Is that?
Yeah, that's what I gathered
Yeah.
just reading through it briefly. It's still new. If you go to the GitHub, they only, it's not very active yet. I think there's more like a example, and I don't know how much they've actually released. So time will tell if this becomes anything or if it's just someone kind of getting an idea out there. But I do think in general, this idea of we have this new protocol, MCP. Once you have some kind of new protocol, people will try to find different ways to use it and monetize it potentially. And this is maybe there'll be some kind of, Stripe for MCP or something, right? In this case, where you can almost accept payments for people using your MCP servers. So your agents that you're building, or if it's Cloud Desktop or something, could basically use these detailed MCP servers with somehow you auth to it, and it charges you based on usage or a monthly fee or whatever. So it is pretty interesting that not only will you be paying subscriptions, your agents will be paying subscriptions for you on your behalf potentially. So
yeah,
what a wild world.
Yeah, that's wild. There's a new part of the MCP spec that's coming as well. Is this what you're going to talk about next, or is this a different thing?
Hey, I was prepared. I told you.
Nice. Okay.
This is what you're.
That's what I was gonna bring up.
Hey,
Yeah.
hey, we're on the same page today. I like it.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So I, candidly, I did not read through this besides scrolling through quickly. So it's part of the MCP spec. We're on the Model Context Protocol site. It's called elicitation. Tell me a little bit about it from your understanding, what you've seen based on what you read.
Yeah, I've only briefly read this as well, and this is just a draft as well, so it's not part of the full spec yet. But my understanding is that this will allow the MCP server to define a schema for some data that the client can send to the server. So you could imagine defining a schema for a UI, for like a login UI or something like that. So maybe you need to put your email and password in to actually authenticate or something like that, right? With the MCP server. Now this would add that capability so a client could display an actual UI to render that. That's I just skimmed it, but I think that's where this is going.
Interesting. So yeah, important to note this is still just a draft. I imagine that it's going to go through some iterations, but if you are trying to follow what's happening with MCP, how is the spec changing, looking at the drafts of like what's coming up is one way to do it. So it kind of shows you some diagrams on like how the message flow works. So it presents the elicitation UI, provided requested information, completes requests. So yeah, and the other thing that I always look at with all these things is sometimes it's like they always give you like, this is how it could be used. And then oftentimes people are interested in finding ways that it might be used for other things. Like, who knows?
Yeah.
We have some cool things we're doing with MCP that I might tease here in the next section, but we'll hopefully be announcing officially next week. But so it is interesting, like what sometimes new technologies get, they get used in maybe the intended ways, but there's also a lot of unintended, sometimes good, sometimes maybe bad, but different consequences of like how people interact with it or how people use it.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I feel like this has so many potential like applications. It's going to be very interesting. Even like things like confirming tool calls or adding extra context for a tool call, like the server could actually ask the user during a tool call, oh, I'm missing this piece of information. You can fill it in, or things like that. So this will be really cool.
Yeah. And Valentina says, love autopiloting finances. I'm assuming you mean like just letting your agent take care of it for you through MCP. Yeah, that
Nice.
I also love it. It scares me a little bit, but I ultimately think it's going to be pretty cool. All right, so one more thing, Tyler, and then I can let you go because I know you probably, I kind of sprung this on you. We did originally have another guest planned that unfortunately, had some reason they weren't able to make it, but we'll reschedule with them. So instead, we get to spend more time going through the news today, which I don't mind.
Nice.
All right, so this one I think is still early as well, but I think it's just one of those things that's needed. And it's this So it's this LLM UI. We're good friends with Copilot Kit, Assistant UI. Of course, there's quite a bit of like UI components and things getting built into Vercel's AI SDK, especially with the V5 that's coming out. But there's always going to be more, right? There's always new people trying to come up with things in different ways. And so the idea is, I think the ultimate challenge is how do you build really great user experiences where you have maybe these long running agents or these long running workflows on some server somewhere, and how do you build a really interactive experience for your users? And so I think this is another attempt at trying to help solve that problem.
Yeah. I think this is really interesting too, that it fixes the markdown syntax as it's streaming in. So I don't know if you saw this. I posted a link to a video by Matt Pocock where I think he's made like a website just showing how janky it is to stream in Markdown into a UI, because you need the opening and closing tags to render a lot of Markdown,
Yeah.
right? So for italics or something, you might have like an underscore, start outputting some text, and then another underscore, and then now it's italicized. But before you get that last underscore, you actually see the first one rendered as a character. And then once the next one comes in, all the text changes and becomes italicized. It seems like this library or framework or whatever it is solve that somehow, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm curious how. It must. So it renders without showing any markdown. Is that a custom button? So it prompts the LLM to let it know it can use buttons like this. It has code blocks with syntax highlighting for 100 languages. Matches your display's frame rate. Text to streaming tokens. Okay. Yeah, it's obviously we could look, we do have the access to the GitHub, but I would, if you're interested if you're trying to solve like really interactive UIs, this is at least on our radar of things that we're looking at, because we get customers telling us every day, they're asking questions on how do we make the UIs more responsive. And we've spent a lot of time making sure we have workflow streaming, and we spent a lot of time working with Assistant UI and Copilot Kit and making sure you can just use chat from AI SDK, but there's still, it's still more difficult than we want it to be.
Always room for improvements.
Yeah. Another probably related to the last topic. I've been thinking about the agents economy, where agents will work alongside humans in the orgs. Yes. definitely something I've thought about as well. I don't know how that's going to look yet, but it is interesting. And Valentina says, Markdown makes me want to cry. I agree with that, actually. Like, it's not bad, but, and then Valentina's making components for chatbots, and also says, because Markdown, I'm assuming it's because Markdown's such a bother. Agreed. Maybe this helps a little bit, but I guess we can kind of continue on. All right, Tyler. Well, that's the news for today. So I do appreciate you coming on and spending 45 minutes with me as we
it was fun.
It's probably the longest new AI news segment we've ever done, because there was just, even though it wasn't the most like the most giant releases, it wasn't like a complete new model dropped. I think there was just, especially with reviewing R1 V2 and having some like in-depth look at it, plus like the MCP draft, plus the Perplexity. There's just enough that we could spend a lot of time looking at.
Jam-packed in there.
Yeah, just dig into it a little bit more than normal, rather than just kind of going over it on a cursory level. All right.
Cool. Well,
I probably
thanks for having me.
Yeah, I probably won't talk to you again. So have a great weekend. Yeah. See you later.
Yep.
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. This is AI Agents Hour. We just spent the last 40 or so minutes going over some AI news. We talked about the DeepSeek R1 V2 and how it looks pretty incredible, to be honest. And we had Tyler come in and talk about how he's even been testing the Qwen 8B model, the new Qwen 8B model, and getting some really good results locally running it. And honestly, we've just released this tool calling compatibility research that we did, and it's on the Mastra blog. But we tried the new DeepSeek version, and it actually outperforms the other one. So at least in this narrow aspect of tool compatibility, it seems like it's on par or better than all the other models, which is pretty amazing, because you can run an 8 billion parameter model locally, and it just outperforms what you can run from the big players. So nice to see that the open source world is still moving forward, even if it is a little behind on some benchmarks. It's still it's not that far behind. We talked a little bit about MCP spec and the elicitation proposal that's in draft status. We talked a little bit about Perplexity's new launch, and we showed how it could be used to do some really good deep research. So it's called Perplexity Labs, and we did some deep research on Mastra, and it was very favorable. It talked very kindly of Mastra, which I appreciate. But we do want to talk next, or maybe spend a little time, and I'm just going to highlight some, we'll call them like community tweets. So I'm going to share some community tweets that we appreciate around here. And so we want to give some of these people some love. If you're on X, maybe give them a follow, or go give their post a like. So this one here from Daniel Trevino says, taking some time to keep learning, diving into Calc Sam's book on AI agents, which I have right here. The way Mastra breaks it down makes it smooth and easy read. I'm at the summer house in the Swedish forest, beer in hand. Doesn't get better than this. Amen to that, Daniel. So I am actually, you won't see me as much next week. I'm going to be out. I've had this family vacation planned for well before we started this stream, and even well before we started Mastra. So I will be out, doing some stuff with the team, checking in, but not doing these live streams. So you'll see other people from the team managing the live streams, but I will hopefully have a beer in my hand. And I already read the book, I already read it, but there might be a new version coming. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But thanks, Daniel, for the post. Appreciate that. Let's do another one. We got 3 today. All right. So this one's from Hashim. Hashim's a friend, used to work at Gatsby with me, and said, this is our analysis. We kind of talked about it a little bit, but our LLM tool compatibility error rate by model, and how kind of the before and the after. So you can see how, if we look at this is from our blog post. After we introduced like our tool compatibility layer in Mastra, how it decreased error rates significantly for all these different models. And we don't have DeepSeek R1 in there, because before, a couple days ago, it didn't really support tool calling. Now it does. And so when we tested it, when Tyler tested it, it was already really good. It didn't need any help from us. It just did it. So really great, great post. Thanks, Hashim. Also a good follow. And last but not least, let's see here. We got from Ryan Zambrano. Best AI agent framework right now is Mastra AI. Giving an MCP for docs is elite. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate that. All right. So with that, we're going to talk about some upcoming launches that we have coming up with Mastra. And we'll kind of tease a few of the things that we're going to be doing. Most of these will be landing next week, assuming everything goes to plan. Sometimes it doesn't always go to plan, but assuming it goes to plan, you should be seeing a lot of this stuff land next week. And so don't tell anybody. This is for only the people watching the stream or that get 47 minutes into this video. But a few things that we're going to be launching next week. So the first, I already talked about this book. Sam, my co-founder right there, he just released the second edition. It's available on Amazon right now if you want the physical copy. Or if you want the digital copy, you can get that for free going there. And so you'll get the second edition, which is, I think this first edition, I'm going to see if it has the page numbers on it. It was like about 90 pages, a little less than 90 pages for this first edition. I think the new version is like 140 pages. So it's a little longer, but this version didn't have anything about MCP. There was a whole bunch of like just missing information because some of this stuff's changed a lot. So we knew writing a book, we're going to have to constantly keep it updated. We're going to try to update it every couple months because the whole space is changing. But you can get that copy. See, again, it's like 140 pages, so it's still a pretty quick read. It's kind of, the goal is to be like no hype, no BS, just really simple. We do show, some code examples with Mastra, but it isn't really Mastra specific per se. We just show examples of how you can do it. But I think it's really educational, even if you're not using Mastra, to take a look at. And if you're just looking to get into, building AI agents and you want a pretty good overview that you could probably read in a weekend and pretty casually, I would recommend that. It's a pretty easy read. And because of this, launch, Sam doesn't even know that I'm announcing this, so he doesn't know that I'm teasing this launch before it happens next week. But if you want a physical copy of this book, but the second edition, not this edition, the slightly bigger edition of this book, please drop a comment, preferably in X if you can, because if you do it in YouTube, I don't know how I'm going to get your information. But I will be picking, we'll say 3 or 5 people, depending on how many we get. If you want the second edition, we will send it to you. The only caveat is if I pick you, you got to DM me on X with a couple bits of information. I need your name, address, and I believe I need your phone number, and we'll just send it to you. We'll just Amazon ship it directly to you. Valentina, you got it. You DM me that information. Again, I need your name, need your actual shipping information so I can just paste it into Amazon. And I think I need your phone number too. And then we will get that shipped to you next week, and you will get the second edition. So if anyone else wants it, we'll give out a few more copies. If you're watching this after the fact, we're only going to do it live. So I'll give everyone a few minutes, and we'll before we bring on our next guest, we'll bring a couple. We'll give out a few more copies. So we're giving out one. We'll give out a few more. All right. Other interesting things that we're going to be launching. We are going to be launching a Mastra course. So a lot of people are very similar to the backgrounds of the founders of Mastra. We're coming from the web world. We built websites and web apps and mobile apps and kind of like app development, which is why we, honestly, why we spend so much time in TypeScript and why we're kind of TypeScript first. But we do know that a lot of you are probably just getting into this stuff, just like we were, In some cases, like I started kind of working on some of this AI stuff about 2 years ago. Sam and Abby maybe a year ago, as we were kind of building out Kepler, the CRM. But, we're still pretty new to this world, as you probably are. And if you are interested in learning how to use Mastra specifically, we're going to have a Mastra course. So Utkarsh, unfortunately, and I should have said this, India is one of the places we can't easily ship from Amazon to. I would love to send you a copy. Please grab a digital copy of the book. But I'm sorry, India is there's a handful of countries that I think there's maybe a dozen countries we've figured out we can send to. India was one that unfortunately was kind of hard for us to send to. So apologies for that, but appreciate you, and hopefully you can get a digital copy. So we're releasing a course. I am just finishing up a few videos for the course, but it's not like a course that you would expect, because in a traditional course, you are kind of learning from an instructor, a teacher that probably records a bunch of videos and walks you through something. The challenge with courses like that is videos are hard to keep updated. So they go out of date kind of quickly, and this space is moving pretty quickly. So we kind of came with that constraint and said, how would a course look in this new AI world? And Sujay, sorry again, I can't send it to you, but if you go to mastra.ai/book, you can get a digital copy. But we came with the constraint of like, what are we going to do how do we make a course that's a little bit easier to keep updated? And ideally that would just be like text, right? Like text and guides is a little easier to keep updated, but not everyone wants to just read text. We could put a whole bunch of guides on the website. We have the book that if you want to read text, we want people to learn in different ways. So while we do have some videos, we do stuff like this. We try to teach things. We do workshops. We thought that the workshops are a better form of like constant updates of information. We probably shouldn't do a full video course. So instead, and please don't share this out. This is coming out next week. We are basically using MCP to build our course, meaning that you are going to take the course in your editor. So whether you're using Cursor or Windsurf or VS Code, any editor that supports MCP, you can actually follow along. It'll write the code for you, tell you what it's doing, and explain it to you. So I won't be teaching it, although there'll be a few videos from me that talk about how it works. Your code agent is going to be your teacher and will teach you. So that's coming out next week. There's teases of it out there now, but we'll announce it next week. I encourage you all to sign up for it, try it out. We're labeling it experimental because not all coding agents are created equal, we found. So some editors work better. Some editors with specific models work better. We have found that MCP support on Windows is just not very good. So there are some challenges with running just MCP in general. Even our docs server has struggles on Windows. So this stuff's all very much changing, and hopefully will continue to improve. But we did want to get something out there that was a little different, that allows you, if you want to get started with Mastra, you can kind of figure it out by kind of having a coding agent walk you through how Mastra works and building some agents, adding memory, building some workflows, things like that. And then over time, we'll be able to add more to it. So it only has a couple sections to the course right now, but we will be continually adding more, and you can kind of track your progress online. So there's a whole bunch of like components of how your code editor maps to like a course dashboard and all that. So more to come on that next week, but we're pretty excited about it. And the last, one last thing, maybe we have two last things. We're going to have an announcement around Mastra Cloud. You can still request access. We're in private beta right now, but if you do build a Mastra agent and you want to deploy it somewhere, you want to have like production level tracing, our cloud is in private beta. We're going to have some announcements around some new things that we're adding to that next week. And the final thing, that this is not really I wouldn't say it's a launch that is going to be hugely publicized. It's not quite as big as we're launching a brand new course, but it is such a quality of life improvement. And I believe it's live now. I'm just going to share the video from that Marvin on our team put together around something that's available in workflows. And it might be in alpha, it might be in latest. I'm not sure where we're at with actually getting it launched, but it's very cool. And it's basically a 4-minute video. So I'm going to share this video, and then we are going to have Joyce come on here in a little bit as well. So give me a second to find it. All right, so let's see here. I think in order to share the sound, I think I need to do this. Let's see if it comes through. For some reason I've had trouble getting sound to share depending on what we're doing, but let's see if we get this. All right.
Hello folks, it's Friday, so it's demo day, and I'm going to showcase you what we've been working on with Taufik. It will be about VNX workflows. So thanks a lot to everybody that has been involved, and thanks a lot and shout out to Taufik that has made this possible. So let me show you a bit what the workflows look like when Tony is showcasing them during a workshop session. So you go to the work, okay, not the problem. So you go here and you go, for example, on the concurrency one.
And so
you
this is before. This is the before.
Right, so you have your graph, it looks nice, but it does not give you any information. And this is the feedback that we got last week when we interviewed a quite big company, and they were like, hey, this graph looks good, but it does not give any information. So I'm going to show you how it works right now. And basically all the information lives on this right panel, right? So if you want to have access to something, you just watch those running, and then you go here and you have access to quite a big JSON that you have to manually browse. So let me show you now a new version of it. So I'm going to just go to the other one, API workshop. I'm going to start this one. And I'm going to show you how it works now with what we did. So let me go to the good port. We'll go here. And I'm going to go to the workflows here. I'm going to select the same one. And now I'm having access to almost the same UI, right? It's not crazy new. It's just same thing. I have all of this here. But let's see what happens now when I trigger a run. All right, so now when you trigger a run, this graph has an importance, right? It will highlight the path that has been chosen, and it will give you information about the time spent, the input of the thing. So the input was Paris, the output of this step. So now you can see what has been outputted and what has been provided to this next step. It's the same here. You have access to the input. So this has been given to this one, and it has spit out something like that. And then you can have access to the full report right below, and a map config and all this stuff. And you can also have access to the trace in some situations. So for example, on this one, I have access to the trace. And if I click on it, I'm directly redirected to the trace of this specific step. We've not made it work yet for all the steps. So like for those nested workflow, it's a bit different, but if you go to the mapping, blah, 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 you can go and see the trace that has been created right there directly. So that's one thing that we did, which I think could help people just see the information flowing in the chart. But there's also something else that we've created, which is a way to see the previous runs that happen on this workflow. So let me try to trigger a bunch of them. So San Francisco, let's see how it works. So San Francisco, it has decided to choose something else depending on the weather. And then boom, we have some information here, and we can see what's the output result. Friday, blah, blah, blah. I have some stuff with a summary, clear sky. Yeah, it's quite cool actually, but yeah, probably during the night though. And if I click on this run button, I have access to two different runs, and I can see them. So this one was the Paris one, and this one is the San Francisco one. So we now have a way to see the history of runs. Disclaimer, right now, this will not work if you change the shape of your workflow, but Tony and Taufik are working on a way to snapshot the state of the workflow at the moment we trigger a run so that we can just show it as it was during the run itself. So I hope you appreciate it, and thanks for watching this one. And again, shout out to Taufik and Tony for having made this possible. See you later.
All right. So that's pretty cool. We have now the ability to get much more visibility into what's happening when you run workflows. So if you want to build a workflow, test it in the playground, you can see what's happening. You can see the inputs and outputs much more clearly. You can keep track of past runs. So ultimately, a huge quality of life improvement, something that we've had like ideas we were going to do for a long time, and customers keep asking about it, but we just hadn't quite got around to it. And now we did. So that was kind of the last exciting thing I wanted to announce as far as Mastra related things today. So we got a few questions in the chat. So will the cloud support other server frameworks like Express or Nest? So technically we're not going to have direct support for that. It probably would just work, to be honest, because we're just running, a node package. So it probably would work. I don't think we've fully tested that yet. Right now it's kind of built for just running the Hono server, but we should test it. Like there's a very good chance it would work. And then over time, maybe we will add, official support for it. But right now, not officially supported. Might work though. Valentino, will your copy be signed? Unfortunately, no. We had to go through. It'll be sent right from Amazon. But if you are in San Francisco next week, Sam is going to be at the AI Engineering World Fair. So if you're there or even around that area, we can probably get you. We'll have a whole bunch of copies of the new edition of the book. We can probably get you a signed copy if you really want it. One more question is the cloud open source? Unfortunately, no, the cloud is not open source. Like all the framework is, you can build it, deploy it, run it anywhere. But the cloud is a commercial offering that we will be talking more about. All right, I will not be there, unfortunately, next week, but Sam will be. So otherwise, I will be there in a couple weeks, though. I'll be back. And just as a reminder, so a bunch of you just jumped in, some things that we've done so far. We spent a lot of time talking with Tyler from the Mastra team about some AI news, about some DeepSeek R1 V2 information around how it's pretty good. Perplexity Labs, the new elicitation draft in the MCP spec. So we talked a little bit about that. And we did just mention some upcoming Mastra launches. Specifically, we are about to launch, not publicly yet, but I guess it is kind of public here. We are about to launch the new version of Sam's book. If you want a copy and you are in kind of the UK area, like Europe, US, Japan, if you're in any of those areas, just drop a comment and we will try to, we'll send you a copy. We'll just send you a physical copy through Amazon. We can't send it everywhere, unfortunately. There's a few places we can't easily send to. But with that, we do have a guest. And so I do want to bring on our next guest, who I have interacted with quite a bit online, but never talked to yet in person. So let's bring on Joyce and learn a little bit about some of the stuff she's doing with AI.
Hi, how's it going?
Hey, Joyce. Nice to officially kind of meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you online. I feel we're not that far away physically. I'm in SF as well.
Yeah. I'm in. So I kind of split my time between SF and Sioux Falls, South Dakota, as random as that is. But I am in SF quite frequently. Most, at a minimum of at least 1 or 2 weeks a month. But yeah, tell me a little bit about you and some of the stuff that you're working on. And then I know we'll have questions. This is live. So if you're listening to this, if you have questions, drop them in the comments of YouTube, LinkedIn, X, wherever you're watching this from.
Yeah, so I'm Joyce, and my Twitter handle is on there. I think some of my tweets these few days have been kind of appearing on people's feeds. But I currently do product at Crossmint. So I think Crossmint is still pretty new, like, or not a lot of like traditional AI people kind of know us, but we're basically a developer platform for um, companies and also developers, individual developers, to bring their apps and also their agents on chain. So I work specifically on agentic payments with stablecoins, meaning that if you have an agent and you want your agent to be able to easily own its own money, you can do that. We can actually help you do that with our, obviously, APIs. And because agents can't own bank accounts for now, we can help your agents own wallets, or you can bring your own wallets and your agents can just very simply, easily transact with stablecoins. So what can your agents actually do with stablecoins? Well, initially when we first started, so I work on this product called Goat. So Goat is actually an open source on-chain action toolkit, meaning that if you have an agent, for example, you build an agent in Mastra, and now you're like, hey, I want my agent to actually be able to interact with the real world. For example, I want my agent to go shopping on Amazon for me. But Amazon blocks bots and they don't really allow kind of bots to serve their websites or like even pay, and your bot can have a bank account. So you come to Crossmint and you have a wallet with us, or if you already know crypto, you already have a wallet and you would be able to use kind of some of Crossmint's API with Goat to buy stuff with stable coins on Amazon. And the best part is you never need to offer them for your agent. And however you get your stable coins is up to you, or even if you just want to pay in like native tokens on like the chains that you choose. So this is a little bit more crypto, but I kind of wanted to share my screen and show you guys what exactly this Goat thing is.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people initially they're like, wait, this is so confusing, but once I show you, it will all make sense. So
Yeah, and yeah, feel free to share your screen. And funny enough, we did talk about, there was someone that has started kind of an open source project around MCP payments, and it's very new. So, but I do think there's a lot of excitement around, and maybe some hesitation, but mostly excitement around how can agents transact things on your behalf. And so I do think that this is going to be a space that a lot of people are thinking about, and maybe this is like, it seems to be like this might be a really good use for crypto, because then it's not like an actual bank account, which you do need, to be a human, right, to get a bank account,
yep.
but you don't necessarily have to transact on chain. So very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's actually the best part. And a lot of people listening to me will be like, okay, but what even is Goat? And so if you're interested to join along, just go to github.com/goat-SDK. So when you come in here, basically what you see is the leading agentic finance toolkit for AI agents. And we did already make an agent with the Mastra framework, so it's always been in there. What you see here is if you go into examples and you're going to buy framework, you see that there is a Mastra folder. And this is just a super simple, well, in this repo, it's just a super simple agent that can just, transact on chain. So like can send tokens, figure out which wallet using, which chain you're on. And if you're interested in following along during this, you can just go on to this repo and kind of look at how we have set up like a money transmitter agent. But basically what this means is we have all these things called plugins. So if you go into packages, you see that with all these things called, so first and foremost, adapters. So Mastra is an adapter. So for example, if you don't want to just use the example code that we built for Mastra, you can come in here and see how to use a Mastra agent with Goat, because this is where we show you the implementation. And then for plugins, you can see every single app that your agent can use. So again, this is going to be super crypto specific, but what's interesting is that all these apps are on-chain apps that humans already use, and now we just make it super simple for you to just focus on building the agent and then coming here and seeing which apps you want your agents to be on. And once you choose one, it's like you literally just need to say import this import, for example, if I want to say import Etherscan, I just say import Etherscan from GoatSDK/Etherscan. That's it. So yeah, so this is just the structure of the repo. I would love to show like a Mastra agent in practice, kind of just buying something for me from Amazon. So let me just go to my IDE.
Yeah, that is I want to see that too, because I have not seen that yet. So that is pretty cool.
Yeah,
Let's see
yeah.
it.
So I actually wanted to show like a flight agent, but I think Amazon is something that we can see here and now. So today, I'm just gonna choose something cheap. I just want to get like this pack of pens, and I'm gonna make my agent buy this for me. So what I'm gonna do is,
Then for the next demo, we're gonna have it by the book. No, I'm
yes,
kidding. Keep
actually,
going.
yeah. Well, honestly, I could change it to that link if you just send me the link.
Yeah, I mean, just
Uh,
search for Principles of Building AI Agents book. See if we. I know this is live demo now, so I'm throwing some,
yeah, no worries. Let's see.
and it should be, if you notice, like you'll notice that on Amazon it does say second edition, so has been released.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
and it's about the same price as the pens.
Yeah, all right, let's do this then. Okay, this is
Well,
super cool.
and
So
if it doesn't work, we'll go back to the pens. But if it does work, everyone's gonna celebrate.
it should work because all it does is try to extract the Amazon ID from the link. So I would just go in and start running the index file. So I'll just be chatting with the agent through CLI. Obviously, if you want to build on top of this and make your own UI, like sometimes I make like a Telegram bot that you can chat with like a little more personality. But today I just want to show you like the master framework and what we've built on it. So I'm just gonna say, hey, what's my wallet address? And so as you can see here, it's calling the get address tool because we did import, say, the wallet client, and also one of the plugins that we imported is the headless checkout, which enables agents to just buy things on Amazon with stablecoins. So it knows my wallet address, which means that it now knows my wallet balance. So if I say, what's my wallet balance? Or I can say like, what's your wallet balance? Either way, it's the wallet balance. Oop, never mind. It's so I can say, hey, could you please buy this for me on Amazon? And it should say yes. So it would try to get my address first one more time, just check what chain it's on. And then it should, oh, okay. So it extracted the Amazon ID and it already has like my address and my name and all that. And so it called the byte token, which basically is just a tool that we imported through the headless checkout plugin. And it created an order. So what you're seeing here is just an ID that you can check in your Crossmint console, or once you get the receipt on your email. And then it said that the order has been paid for. So usually I'm able to show you guys like a receipt that I get. But today that system is down. So I'm just going to show you that the payment actually did go through. So this is my address and it actually did pay. So how much is it? It's $9.67. So together with tax, I paid $10.35. So usually the receipt will look something like this. So if I bought the book, it will show me the book. Today it's down for a little bit. So previously I bought Red Bull, so it kind of just showed me. So this is the order ID. I get a receipt from Crossmint. It shows me exactly how much I paid with how much taxes. And shipping is free because it's from Amazon Prime. So the book should be here by like tomorrow or latest 2 days from now. And yeah, that's basically it. That's the agent that we built with Mastra.
Okay, this is epic. So I have lots of questions, but first
Yeah.
of all, because it previously, because you had to have the exact Amazon link, right? It extracts the ID from the Amazon link. So I can already see in my head, we just had Annie from Stagehand on, I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago, and Stagehand's a browser agent, right? So you can go search Amazon for you and like go out, get to the web page, get the link. So I could wire these two things together and make a really cool agent flow where I did make. I think I tweeted something where when I was first playing around the Stagehand, where I had to go out and it added a product to my cart, but I didn't want to give the agent my credit card and have it like type in credit card information. So this does solve that problem. So that is, I think you could build. I might have to, at some point, have to try building this in on a live stream where it's like, let's actually wire it up so we can have an agent go out, search Amazon for you, find a product, recommend it, ask me if I want to buy it, and then make the transaction. And then a few days later, show it on the stream, the stream that it actually worked. But now you're gonna get the agent's book. It's coming to your house, right?
It's coming to my house. And actually, I did post a video series where I bought Coke for my friend, and he put his New York address, and by the time he flew back to New York, it was by his doorstep waiting for him. And well, today's video was about Amazon, and that video was on Amazon, but we can actually also buy stuff on Shopify. And right now we're testing rolling out flights as well. So I had my agent just like go search for flights for me because I was like, I only want flights under like $70 from SF to LA. And it automatically booked a flight for me, but I didn't even know until I got like the receipt from like Frontier. So that was a very pleasant surprise. But there's so much we can do now because you don't have to worry about giving your agent a credit card. You don't have to worry about, I know for Stripe, for example, they use like one-time payment tokens. So every time before they pay, you have to go in and put in like a code. For this, of course, there are other security things you have to think about. So for example, like I don't want my agent to spend like thousands of dollars or thousands of USDC from my wallet. I want to be able to give it rules. So you can do that. Or if you say, hey, they're never going to buy anything more than like $20, that's fine. We just buy whatever they want. I'll let them run in a while. So there's so many things you can build now. I think I'm just so excited, but obviously I'm also more excited to see how we can start building more reliable agents as well. Because obviously these is all still like, very controlled, very supervised. Like I go in periodically to check what it's doing.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about, so I have a talk in San Francisco on June 17th, I think. I think it's at Elastic, or it's with Elastic. But I'm showing how to build like a personal finance agent. So maybe I should just like take this example and also say like, oh, and by the way, my personal assistant. So it's not a personal finance. I'm building a personal assistant agent, but also my personal assistant can just buy me stuff on Amazon when I need it. And so that's a pretty cool capability that would be pretty easy to add, I think, because essentially, I imagine we kind of looked at the code, but it's essentially you just import the import from GoatSDK, and I make it into a tool call, and I give that tool call to my agent, and it's easy to just as long as I have the API key, it should just work.
Yeah, it should just work, and I can't even give you an API key that just allows you to transact with real money. It gives you a wallet with real money as well. And the Goat plugin, the Goat package is also just super simple to import, even in Python. So, but one thing I really like about the Mastra framework is that it makes it really easy to call tools. So building this whole kind of example probably only took us like not even a day, which is amazing because every time we add a new framework, like it requires us to go in, like read the docs and understand. And they're like, oh shit, this framework is different from this framework. How do we call these tools? But yeah, with Mastra, it's just super simple.
Yeah, well, we try to make it as simple as possible. So I'm glad that it worked out. It was easy, one of the easier ones for you to integrate with. And definitely always like to see, these different open source projects kind of starting to tie things together, because I do think, like I do dabble in crypto, like a lot of us that are watching this probably do, but less so than maybe I used to, because there's like these natural hype cycles. And I think everyone was like, oh, AI is the new thing, crypto is the old thing. But what if the worlds collide a little bit? And I think that's where there's some like really interesting use cases where like these two technologies can really work pretty well together. And you kind of get some of the additional security and visibility that you get in with crypto, right, where everything's on chain, but then you also get kind of this new capabilities unlocked by agents that seems like a really cool use case for where I personally could see, like, yeah, maybe I would rather just have this thing be a stable coin and just use that rather than, rather than having to use giving an agent access to my credit card, right?
Yeah.
So there is one question from the chat. This was probably when you were talking about Shopify, just from Valentina. How did you find that on Shopify? I'm assuming like the integration to Shopify, Valentina. I don't know if that's clear. I don't know if that makes sense to you, Joyce.
Yeah. So, we now support over 1 billion SKUs on both Amazon and Shopify, and then we're in the process of adding like 10s and 20 more like providers. We work, well, I can't really say too much about how the integration works, but basically, the way this integration works is that you never have to off-ramp whatever stablecoins your agent pays with. So we started with we first started with like the biggest two e-commerce websites, right? And so Shopify and Amazon already work out the box. Some companies have already started using it for their agents, so that's actually pretty cool to see. Like we're transitioning from just agents that live in your IDE or like localhost into just things that are in production. So yeah, I can't comment too much on that, but just know that it works and you never have to give it a bank account or a credit card.
Very cool. All right. Anything else that you wanted to talk about today, Joyce?
No, I think that's all I wanted to show today.
Awesome. Well, you can see Joyce's Twitter handle there on the screen, X, Twitter, whatever we call it. I change my mind every day, but good, definitely a entertaining follow. So I'd recommend giving her a follow. And yeah, it's always fun. But yeah, it was fun to actually get to chat, not just over, Twitter DM, right?
Yeah.
And Valentina says, epic share. Thanks so much.
Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for having me. Have a good day.
Yeah. And
Bye.
yeah, we'll definitely, I will, like I said, I'm going to play around with that idea of maybe we can build an agent using it. And if I have questions, I will definitely know who to tap on the shoulder to help me out.
Yes. Yes. Just DM me and I'll help you.
All right. We will see you later,
See you,
Joyce.
bye.
And thanks for coming on AI Agents Hour.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
All right, everybody. So it's been a pretty good episode today. Sometimes we go really long. Today, I think we're going to keep it kind of tight, right? 1 hour and 23 minutes in. I think that's a pretty good live stream for the day. So this has been AI Agents Hour. We talked AI news. You can go back and watch the recording if you missed it. It'll be on YouTube. It's on YouTube right now, but you can get it by following us on YouTube. Then you can also follow me and follow Mastra on X. If you are on X yourself, you can do that, SM Thomas 3. As I mentioned before, you can get the book, mastra.ai/book. If you want a digital copy of the book, go ahead and sign up for that. It's also on Amazon, or if we gave away at least one free book. If anyone else wants one, let me know. DM me. And with that, we did talk about some upcoming Mastra launches. We talked with Joyce, and overall, it was pretty good Friday. Hope you all have a great weekend. I will be out next week, so you'll get other people from the Mastra team. Abi will be back. He's still in Europe time zone, so our timing of the show might be a little off. We might have some earlier episodes, some later episodes. So normally we try to come at you every day around noon Pacific time, give or take a little bit, depending on if we're running late, which we sometimes do. But appreciate you all. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.